Well, good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome once again. Innovation comes out of great human ingenuity and very personal passion. Learning and innovation go hand in hand. In the words of Steve Jobs, innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity. Innovation is taking two things that exist and putting them together in a new way. A very good morning and welcome to the second multidisciplinary international virtual conference organized by JIMS Greater Noida on the topic recent advancements and innovations in management, media, science, technology, education, and legal issues. In short, ICRIMSTEL 2021. It is the first international conference in the history of our institute, which is completely conducted on a digital platform in line with the social distancing norms due to COVID-19 pandemic. I am Nafizuddin, Assistant Professor, Applied Science Department, JIMS Engineering Management Technical Campus, and it is a great pleasure for me to welcome our eminent guests, speakers, and the participants from all over the world who have joined this virtual platform to exchange experiences and work together. There is no light brighter than the light of knowledge, so let us begin with a virtual lighting of the lamp ceremony, where we invoke Ma Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and wisdom, to shower her blessings upon us. Over to you, Shishma ma'am, for the Saraswati Vandana. Thank you for that wonderful presentation, and may the goddess of knowledge and wisdom bless us all. Well, now I would like to introduce our esteemed guests and speakers who are here with us today. Our campus director, Dr. R.K. Raghuvanshi of GemTech Greater Noida, has a varied experience of more than 23 years. He has a doctoral degree in mechanical engineering. Under his leadership, the institute has risen many folds and is continuously striving to gain newer heights. I invite Dr. Raghuvanshi to say a few words. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hafiz. Am I audible to you?
yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. That's great. Good morning to you all present here in this live session. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to the opening of the International Conference ICRAMS Trail 2021. Honorable Chairman Dr. Amit Gupta, under his able leadership, the Institute is continuously flourishing. Esteemed, distinguished Chief Guest Professor Adam Kubik from Canadian University, Canada. Honorable Guest of Honor Dr. Ashok Sharma from the Australian National University, Australia. And respected keynote speakers, Mr. William Tucker, President, Charity United States, USA, and Mr. Harjot Singh, Director, Twainwood Law Practice Limited, Solicitor, Supreme Court of England and Wales, Advocate, Indian High Court, and Supreme Court of India, HODs, faculty, and staff members, members of organizing committee, conference participants, particularly those are from abroad, and dear students. On behalf of organizing committee of this conference, it's my great privilege and pleasure to welcome you all to the second international conference, ICRAMS Trail 2021. I would like to dedicate this conference to the Serum Institute of India, SSI, and Bharat Biotech Limited to successfully prepare and launch life-saving vaccines serving the mankind during the toughest time. We express our deep gratitude to scientific community, doctors, volunteers serving the mankind during this distressed period. We sincerely pay homage who lost their lives due to this deadly pandemic. We highly appreciate the dedicated work of the organizing committee of this conference, consisting of faculty and staff of our institute, who did marvelous job to bring all scientific community and researchers to bring together under one platform, especially when second wave of corona has disturbed mental peace of the entire world. The objective of this conference is to learn and share knowledge among all those who have rich experience and expertise in relevant area of science, technology, management, law, education, and other fields. The ICRAMS Trail is a forum to bring together business people, researchers, scientists, software engineers, advocates, and industry professionals to discuss innovative ideas and diverse topics on next generation of IT and application. While concluding, I take the opportunity to welcome each one of you and express our gratitude in your agreeing to participate in second international conference, ICRAMS Trail 2021. I'm in particular grateful to our international guests who agreed to share their valuable time with us. We hope you return next year also with even more colleagues from ICRAMS Trail 2021. Thank you. Have a wonderful conference day. Over to Mr. Nafis.
Thank you so much, sir. So the driving force behind this conference, our chairman, sir, he wouldn't be joining us, but I'm just going to read his profile to you so that, yeah, let me introduce sir to you. Dr. Amit Gupta, Chairman, Jagannath International Management School, JIMS, is not only an eminent educationist, an outstanding scholar, but also an excellent sportsperson. He's a commerce graduate from Sri Ram College of Commerce and an MBA from Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. His doctorate degree was awarded by the GGS Indraprastha University. Inspired by the ideal of making education meaningful to the times, laid the foundation of a modern professionally run institution of higher learning, Jagannath International Management Schools, with campuses spread all over Delhi and the adjoining states of Haryana, UP, Rajasthan, and a private university, Jagannath University at Jaipur and Bahadurgarh. Dr. Amit Gupta has been honored with many awards by national and international bodies. He was selected among 2,000 outstanding intellectuals of 21st century by the International Biographical Centre, Cambridge, England. He was also conferred the prestigious title of Man of the Year by the American Bibliographical Institute and Shiksha Ratna Award a gold medal by Institute of Economic Studies for its outstanding contribution to the development of education in India. Dr. Amit Gupta is also a member of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, Rotary International, and Roundtable. A recent feather in his cap was being honored with prestigious Outstanding Rotarian Award 2016-17 for serving humanity. So without Sir's relentless support and guidance, this event would not have been possible. Now, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our chief guest for today, Professor Adam Waldemar Skorek, who is a full professor and former head of Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at the Université du Québec, Trois-Rivières. He was elected and nominated director of UQTR's Research Group on Industrial Electronics. He is a visiting professor at the Faculty of Management at the Białystok Technical University. His works include supercomputer applications to the electrothermal applications and complex problem solutions in industrial environment. More specifically, he worked on numerical algorithms with the use of parallel computing for the analysis of the thermal problems in electrical, electronics, and nanoelectronic devices. He is an active fellow member of the Institute of Electrical and Computer Engineering, IEEE. To mention a few of his long list of achievements, he is recipient of the Knight's Cross of the Order of Merit of the Republic of Poland. This was awarded by the President of the Republic of Poland in 2015. He's a recipient of Medal of Governors of the University of Quebec, 2014. And he's also the recipient of Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal in 2012. Now I request Professor Skorek to address this August gathering. Over to you, Professor Skorek.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. That's an enormous pleasure and honor to address you some words here from Trois-Rivières, which is the city between Montreal and Quebec City. Then Quebec, Canada. My thoughts first goes to all the families, the victims, and all people related to this the COVID pandemic. So for us, this is not only observation. That we as the university, for us academia, as human being, of particular place in this world. We are here to help, and not only at this particular moment, but help in the future. And this future is starting now. So I am with University of Quebec in Trois-Rivières, originally Polish, but here 33 years now in the beautiful province of Quebec French-speaking area. That I will show you just a moment. What we are, and you will see a little bit inside of this university. You will see why I'm showing you that, because this is kind of the ambience that we can do. If you can allow me just to share screen, so I can maybe go in few details. It's not just okay, but if I can. If not, I will go to truly with can I share the screen or not?
Just a second, sir. Shishma, ma'am.
Yes, sir, I'm allowing him.
Yes, sir.
Not yet. I will try again. Oh, okay. Now, we can go I will try to share it as well, let's see this one. This one I can see file basic onto advanced, but if not, that's okay. So I will try to share this computer to optimizing this video and share. So that will be one and only try. But if you will see my screen, that's okay. If not, I will simply explain what I have to do. Can you see my screen video or not?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you see that's the University of Quebec and Trois-Rivières, and you see that inside that is multidisciplinary approach. As
Pardon me, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. We can see the schedule here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
wait the moment. I
Yes,
will
sir.
try. If the no, okay, now that will be the set. Can you see now the screen
Yes,
for
sir.
you?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. So that's starting from the bridge on St. Lawrence River. You are in our university where multidisciplinarity is extremely important. As the part of University of Quebec, which is the biggest university on the number of students that in Canada. So let's say we have together so 100,000 and more. But here, the ambience, this multidisciplinarity, it's something that at your university, it's our that also already implemented. So the teaching in French, we have but so many people from so many countries that in that area that you see that pictures of before this a strange period of one or two last years. But why that? That's simply the reason that because from all this perspective we put together. We put together the people. We put together this technology, media, law, which is very important. And let's say that as the professor, I needed, and you probably do the same to teach now in this very specific situation where the world that ask us to go online, how to interact with the students, how to interact with you. Is this still the same way that we will go to teach? No, absolutely no. And this way that we adapt now, it's exactly what we've done on the board or just one person is speaking. No, this is why in my classes, in my courses, adapted one that we just do now. That's so called the inverse or inverse education, inverse teaching. Like we are in this group, around 100 people from courses that I've already know in this session, I implicate that all students, they have presentations. Each of them must to have 180 seconds of its time on the class. So that's the way to do. We as the professors, we use the media now. And you see that, just that on the back of me, that's the picture. What does the picture? Yes, I took this picture. So if that I can show you my office, but I said no, for today, this particular picture done by Adam Skorek, photographer now. Why? Why this picture is related to, and at this time I will show you what's happened there. And this particular point, if we will go there, that's that will be this, the billing that's done by someone that who is related to the asset as that and want and two will go here amphitheater of Trois-Rivières, which was done as the result of what we see now. And let's see the professor or first the student who was at the University of Quebec, start electrical engineer, start to think about what's happened. And at the time, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, was the time to create a cable industry to distribute films, video, and he done a great company called Cogeco. And for that, as the IEEE fellow, and I will show you what is IEEE and why I introduce that in my presentation IEEE today, because this gentleman, Mr. Odette, create company, and the company just built a few years ago this particular building as amphitheater for community. So that's the example that someone from the university, like here you can see that probably there, and from this all full of this University of Quebec. As you see here, the links, you will find the links on the chat. I will send you that just after. We have all Quebec that done that create what's happened now, this return for society. Our role as educators, as teachers, as saints, or researchers are to serve humanity. This is why I am going with you from this beautiful city of Trois-Rivières that I am telling you about. We will go now to the IEEE. What is this, the IEEE? As you can realize that, and I we just see be sure that you will see the IEEE here. Now that's something that's absolutely amazing for us, because if you're talking about the technology, if we're talking about as innovation, if we're talking about management, the load and all implication, that's the biggest that's in the world, the technical professional organization. And let's see the very short presentation about that. If you find it in the world, that's like the matrix. We have the regions. Let's see the year and you have so many members of the IEEE. I was really impressed at how India, how the Hyderabad sections, I know the sort of very well. Our this brilliant first place that the section in the world 4 times. We awarded them many times, as well as so many universities in India as well. So you are in the region, the 10, as you see, 10 regions in the world, 6 to the United States, 7 this is Canada, and Africa, Europe, that's the 8, Latin America, the 9, then to the Asia Pacific, that's the 10. So for all these sections, if we will go like that, so finally here from the Trois-Rivières, we can go as to the neighbor and I think that here somewhere in the New Delhi section we can define that as well to go directly there, but you can see, you can join, you can be, and you can share this one for the India Council, as we have that will be the place to go. Oh, whoops, maybe the links, it's not sort of really on this place, but if we can see all the sections to all the world, that's here. And if we go now through this, the columns of this particular organization, one and unique, you see here 39 of technical groups. In this technical part, you can see the all related to electrical engineering of the day, if we can see it like that. But that what is very interesting to see, we have also this management and for this particular society, which is here, as you can see, I think maybe something that you can simply join or create in local sections, if not already done. And yes, we have this particular the implication relation to what we can install, what we can develop, and what we can manage in there. So that community here is to put us together, to see the publications, to see the conferences, to see look like that, several of them in each of the society. That's absolutely amazing. I will give you the link so you can see and explore that after, but on this particular part of So what's happened there? We have now some awards, and let's see in this particular the place for the IEEE for worldwide awards and awardee. We just put some recognitions that as honorary degrees, that as particular that medals, but also it's with financial support as well. And you see our list of this year. I will give you this the link because ceremony will be shortly starting this in 2 days. So that's the word. That's the word today. You have some distinguished folks, some distinguished contributors from India, and let's see here on this page that I will attract your attention to this the two awards. This one from the left, you see Steve Wozniak from Apple, but you see AAA Richard Kaufman Award. So as a chair of this committee for the next Richard Harold Kaufman Award, I will invite you to nominate, to send nomination for this award. The link will follow in the chat of our conference. And finally, to conclude, going to the 1 minute of my time again, I'd like to go with you to what we so called innovation. Innovation, I will just stop share again to show you to what is important in the IEEE and where technology is going now. So the first, and as you see, technological, the issue is IEEE blockchain, but blockchain at all that's worldwide the application. It's now starting from everybody knows cryptocurrency, but we are going to clean energy. We are going to manage what we can share and what we can innovate in clean energy worldwide. So this particular initiative, it's what's happened now as in the future. For the next one, as you can see, the digital reality, it is another very fresh and very new initiative that we are going with all the now happened by numerical approaches that artificial intelligence included, but I will give you also the link for that so you will see what's happened in this particular new initiative. Future networks, IEEE quantum, and let's see what it was before, big data and IEEE brain. That was excellent approach for what so we can do for the technology, the development, and for the humanity services. So thank you so much for this time that I had with you. And if you have some questions, please write me. And that was my pleasure to address you these few words. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Adams-Korek, for that wonderful insight into the IEEE process and the new technologies and their role in the current and future scenarios. So let me now move on to our guest of honor. Well, our guest of honor for today is Dr. Ashok Sharma, a visiting fellow at the Strategic and Defense Studies Center, Coral Bell School of Asia Pacific Affairs, the Australian National University. Before joining the UNSW Canberra at ADFA in November 2016, Dr. Sharma was a fellow of the Australia-India Institute at the University of Melbourne, among various other prestigious positions held by him. Dr. Sharma specializes on the US-India-China great power geopolitics and the Indo-Pacific security, and is one of the leading experts on India-US relations and India's global positioning. Dr. Sharma, extensively published, is the author of India's Pursuit of Energy Security, Domestic Measures, Foreign Policy and Geopolitics, that was SAGE 2019, and India Lobbying and its Influence in US Decision-Making, post-Cold War that was in Sage 2017. His current book project is on the topic geopolitics of COVID-19 and the emerging international security order. So now I invite Dr. Sharma to take over and enlighten us with his ideas. Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Nafis. It's an honor to be invited for this seminar and conference, very timely. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ajitav Singh, Dr. Tyagi, and I would like to acknowledge the chairman and director of JIMS. My topic of today, I'm going to talk on geopolitics of COVID-19 and how the world has responded, and especially the re-emergence of Quad, and what is the significance of Quad in the context of vaccine diplomacy and the kind of pandemic, the second wave we have seen here. So what is the trend which we are going to witness in the coming days and years? So let's talk about first the geopolitics of pandemics. Pandemics throughout history have had devastating impacts. Throughout history, you go to the ancient time and you see that take of Athens to Antonine Empire were brought down, and then there was a Justinian plague, then bubonic plague, and they were in medieval times and they devastated Europe. They brought down Byzantine Empire. They stopped the westward expansion of Mongol empires. It also created a kind of urgency for the labor-intensive devices, which is also, it's being attributed. Bubonic plague has been attributed as one of the main reasons for industrial revolution in Europe. So it has an impact on economic activities in the past time. In the modern era, we have seen how cholera in Calcutta, Spanish flu, and some flus in South America, which we call New America. They led to the expansion of British Empire in Americas and Spanish empires in America. Spanish flu was the last biggest flu, which had devastating impact on human lives, and India was the worst country. India was the country which suffered most. More than 10 million people died, and Mumbai was the hot spot. And it also triggered a kind of, the fall of British Empire in India. The way British authorities that time ignored the plight of the people, the devastating impact that Spanish flu had in India. Coming to the modern times, so it's clear that pandemics have had always a very, a very devastating impact. They have been a black swan event, and they killed many people. They destroyed economies, but they also triggered geopolitics and brought many empires down. Coming to COVID-19 geopolitics, its impact has been similar. It has killed many people, it has devastated economies, and it triggered the geopolitics, and which is evident. We have seen how US-China geopolitics emerged, and actually China sensed an opportunity to dislodge the US primacy in the world, and the simmering rivalry between the US and China triggered during the COVID-19 outbreak. And after containing pandemic in its country, China started kind of a certain aid diplomacy by giving PPE to countries, especially in Europe. Its first target was Europe theater, where it sensed to create create a strife between US and NATO allies and European allies, and especially Germany and Italy was targeted. And Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State at that time, and Trump sensed that and rightly said China virus, and they sense that it's China's move is to exploit, and it's not known whether it's at the laboratory made or it's a natural occurrence through those wet markets. So still it's not known, and the investigation has not been done. So conspiracy theory will be always there. But one of the very important aspects of this conspiracy theory is not exactly conspiracy theory, but why the way China has been asserting in the Indo-Pacific region and Europe after the outbreak, after containing disease in its own country. If you see that when they came to know that the COVID-19 outbreak, when they came to know about the pandemic, and the doctor said they tried to hide the severity of the outbreak, and they stopped all the inbound flights, and then they allowed the outbound flights to continue, so that the virus spreads all over the world. So this is clearly, there was an intent of China to use this pandemic to dislodge the US primacy, and countries like the other rising powers like India and Brazil, they all have suffered most, and of course America has been the most affected country by COVID-19. And China has a stronger but its geopolitical intent has been exposed, and there has been also talk about how to fix the global supply chain, how to address the global supply chain, which has been which the world has accidentally or inadvertently let China dominate, and the talk about those Nixon era, how US-China Shanghai Communique started. They tried to encourage China to bring Soviet Union down, and this was reviewed by Mike Pompeo during COVID time after 50 years of that Sino-US Shanghai Communique. So there was clearly an urgency from the United States under Trump administration to stop Chinese, to expose China's geopolitical intent. It's a intent, and it's a geopolitical move in both in Europe and especially in the Indo-Pacific region. Biden administration has come, and now the Indo-Pacific security concern is on the top of the agenda of Biden administration and all the like-minded democratic countries and China-very countries in the world. Coming to the Indo-Pacific region and the emergence of Quad, and Quad has emerged as one of the significant strategic move by the maritime democracies and US and its partners and allies. Chinese geopolitical intent in Indo-Pacific was clearly visible with this war, like this conflict against India, this Galwan Valley clash. Then there was they started asserting against Philippines and Vietnam and Japan, and it was clearly the security law in Hong Kong, and again on Taiwan issues they started being aggressive on asserting. In all the flashpoints in the Indo-Pacific region, China has been asserting. So there was clearly a move by US and its allies and partners to contain this Chinese move. And this was first in terms of balance of power and traditional balance of power on security angle, which the Quad was, since the beginning of its emergence, has been a kind of a soft balancing. It was considered as a soft balancing. Quad emerged in 2007. It was obviously targeted on China when it emerged, and because of Chinese departure, Chinese protest, it was put on backstage. And there was also a kind of view during Obama administration who tried to pursue a kind of G2, a group of G2, tried to fix a relationship with China, make it alive. It didn't happen, and China continues and sneaked into South China Sea, and artificial islands were built in South China Sea. Then after a couple of years, in 2012 or 13, this US Asia Pacific, US pivot to Asia Pacific emerged And the Quad didn't come out. The Quad was put on the backstage, and it was I had done my postdoc on. I was the first serious research on. I did first serious research on Quad, and I said that it will come when the like-minded democracies will come, and because I said that China's rise will be one of the factors, but also in non-traditional security issues, Quad can be an important arrangement. And that is happening now today. And we have seen that how the Indo-Pacific security has started emerging as a concept, and during Trump administration, not only the concept of Indo-Pacific emerged very strongly, which was first propounded in a very strongly in an official or document in 2014 Australian Defence White Paper by Brendan Sargent, who was Assistant Defence Secretary and was head of my center at the moment. So that was the first official, and an Indo-Pacific concept emerged in India, in America. Hillary Clinton emphasized during Obama administration, and in India, some of the scholars, especially C. Rajamohan, I was very close to him. I have followed him, and he was one of the strongest proponents of this concept. And here in Rory Metcalf, a couple of academics and the Pentagon in America, here Defense Department, and obviously Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was the strong advocate of this. So it has emerged. Quad has re-emerged during Trump administration, and it was on administrative level, secretariat level, talks were going on, then the foreign minister level, and then finally the biggest development was when Australia was allowed to join this Malabar exercise in 2019 and 20 in November, and it was obviously in the wake of Chinese aggression during COVID-19, and we have seen how this is evolved to a summit level meeting, and which Biden administration, as he convened that meeting, and all the four maritime democracies and heads of countries, Prime Minister Modi, Scott Morrison, Suga, and Biden, they joined the summit level meeting. It's a very significant development, and first it has busted the emergence of Indo-Pacific concept, and Quad busted the entire propaganda of China being a benign power, China's rise as peaceful, China will be a good power. This has totally busted, and Quad emergence is it leaves no ambiguity on the U.S. intent to contain Chinese aggression and expansion and assertiveness, especially in the Indo-Pacific region for the time being. And so, but it is obviously when Trump was living and when India and US, when he visited India, he focused on comprehensive global partnership. India-US strategic partnership, no more confined to strategic partnership, but it was made a comprehensive global strategic partnership. And Mike Pompeo had been stressing that it's no more confined to Indo-Pacific. It is China's footprint is across the world, so we need to contain that. Indo-Pacific concept is important because it is a region for the prosperity for the 21st century. If it is managed well, the world will prosper. If it is not managed well, the world will we will have massive problems. More than 50% of GDP, economies, and all the countries, including UK, Germany, France, Russia, all the countries have now Indo-Pacific strategy. What is one of the the strongest Indo-Pacific strategy to balance Chinese aggression? And the biggest concern in Indo-Pacific is obviously the rise of China, its assertiveness, and assertiveness not in literally, but also economic diplomacy. It's a great diplomacy which has been reflected through One Belt, One Road initiative, and that is what needs to be contained. And this Quad meeting has clearly emphasized that it will not only include many countries, including countries like Vietnam, South Korea, New Zealand, and it may include more and more nations. Quad can be Quad Plus, and which was already, there was a meeting on this, so it can include many countries, including Indonesia, Philippines, and all the like-minded countries which are concerned about the rise of China, especially its military aggression and a kind of diplomacy it can be. It is also, it is expanding in a comprehensive manner in terms of traditional to non-traditional security issues. And we have seen that two issues figured during the Biden administration's recent summit level meetings. On the very first day, he talked about the environmentalism, the need to contain global warming, and he issued an executive order about renewable energy, and this figured during Quad Summit, and the recent Global Climate Summit has focused extensively on how to move to renewable energy. So this is also part of Quad, and Quad has seen that issue was discussed, and because it's important, because experts and scientists all believe that it is almost a unanimously people experts believe that Quad, but to contain global climate, concerns, to contain global warming and bring it to 1.5 degree Celsius down, we need to shift to renewable energy, and two forms of energy, especially solar and wind energy, are going to be very, very significant in terms of shifting to renewable energy. But the solar panels and wind turbines, which the materials that are used are critical rare earth materials. Their terms is critical rare earth materials, and that is that is being dominated by China. 1990s, it used to be US which used to dominate, but over the last 30 years, it is China which is dominating, and its production, marketing, and technology. Who controls that is going to be very crucial in the coming days, and it is also forming a part of geopolitics. Extensively dealt in my book, last chapter of the latest book on India's pursuit of energy security. So I'm working on that also in an extensive way. So this is one of the areas where the geopolitics of these great power politics, which has triggered during the COVID-19 pandemic, is moving towards. And then another is vaccine. Obviously, this is this is a vaccine diplomacy where India has emerged a significant player. It is the biggest producer of vaccine. It was already it has been already a biggest producer of generic medicine, and so now it is which has been a hydrochloroquine. We have seen how it became important, how India is exported after containing a disease, and it did very well until February. It was extremely well positioned, and it was right decision by the government to export to help this, and India was winning in this Chinese vaccine diplomacy. It was reaching out to all the countries, poor and developing countries, and it was suddenly this second wave, as in the last 20 days, has brought all the dynamics, all the dynamics which were in favor of India, a bit concerning for all the countries which have been dependent on India as well. And in this case, China has been trying to reassert again. Quad meeting focused on this vaccine diplomacy, where Johnson and Johnson vaccine is supposed to be, it's a US vaccine, was supposed to be made in India. This is going to be made in India, funded by Japan and America, and it will be transported through by Australian supply and chain, and they have their ships, and they will transport it. It was a very good model. It is a very good model, and this is one of the things which Quad can do, and this needs to be expanded in other areas, cybersecurity, where China is also assertive, and obviously environmental, this renewable energy, in which Australia will emerge as a very significant player. If obviously Indonesia also, rare earth material, Australia has got abundant rare earth material, critical materials. How to start, production of this and marketing and all that, and this will be in the future coming. Australia-China has a relationship has been deteriorating day by day. But there has been, concern about this. In Australia, especially at the moment, the top news is that Scott Morrison government, on the advice of some medical expert, banned the travel all the flights from India to Australia. Almost 9,000 Australian citizens, mostly Indian origin, Indian Australians are there, and they have been trying to come to Australia, but they are waiting. And 15th May is the review date. They will open it again. the reason and the logic is that we want to develop our capacity to welcome them and quarantine facility and everything. But it has been this decision of government has received massive criticism. It has been criticized very heavily here. But obviously, Indian community is a very powerful. It is this, one of the, not one of the, after British Australia, it is the second highest taxpayer community in Australia, and it is the country in Indians form the highest number of skilled immigrant category people in Australia, followed by British and sometimes British Australians or more. So obviously they are a force here to reckon, not as powerful as Indian Americans, which I have done extensively in my book, Indian American Lobbying, and how powerful they are. So, so this factor, especially this entire, dynamics of this COVID, second wave of COVID, and how it has affected Australia-India relations, is also a reminder and also there was from the US, though US, France, and UK all have come, Russia has come, but US took 3 days to respond to India's, this devastating, impact which it was witnessing because of second wave of COVID outbreak, and it took 3 days to respond, and suddenly they all started responding. So this also reminds that if you want to develop any strong strategic partnership, kind of quad, and to balance China, which is very aggressively pursuing to now vaccine diplomacy, there is always a kind of this reminds them to work on these areas, because the trust and confidence that has been built over a period of last 20 years between US and India and Australia last 10 years, India, Japan, and India, France, and all these, US-led West, I would call a political West, which India has become closer and closer in the last 20 years. They need to overcome these kind of delays, and the media has been also playing very important role. They did highlight about the concerns about and how it is going, concerns and ramifications of this ban by Scott Morrison government of Indians coming, stranded Australians in India coming back to Australia. But they also played a negative role, and there one needs to be very careful on assessing the situation, because it can go any either way, and that can create more confusion, and it can create more confusion and discomfort in the kind of trust and cordial relations these countries are witnessing among each other, with each other. And so coming to the entire scenario of this vaccine diplomacy and pandemic and the kind of impact it is having on the geopolitics and global governance, it's first, I would say, it has triggered the impending strategic rivalry between great powers, especially US and China, and obviously India and China, because China feels more India than the US, because India is rising power and India is biting into China's pie. So this is concerning for China, and it's a great power cycle theory talks about that second power feels another number 3 power which is rising, and it is, if you go into the history of this great power politics, you will see that Germany was, in the late 19th century, Germany was more concerned. It was not challenging UK, Great Britain. It was number 1 power. It was more concerned about the rising France. And similarly, during the First World War, Germany was more concerned about the rising Russia, the Soviet Union, then challenging Great Britain, again number 1 power. So this kind of situation has happened, and we were predicting, and a lot of scholars have been talking about this, and I have been talking about this power cycle theory of US, China, India geopolitics, and in which, and in this case, this is a neorealism theory of John Mercier, who talks about the first hegemonic power and tries to balance the second challenging power by third power in a different in the same in the same region. And so this kind of concepts of great power politics is very much evident in this entire geopolitics. And the theater is Indo-Pacific, and we have seen that, and we are witnessing that how Quad has reemerged, and it is expanding not vertically but horizontally and conceptually also, and it is also conceptually in terms of non-traditional security. So it's a good development. Another is global governance. Obviously, global governance is now it's going to be a global governance and global supply chain. Global supply chain is definitely the world is now looking, especially industrialized nations and the United States, and in countries like India and Brazil, they are concerned about this. So there will be a massive work on this. India needs to be prepared, but other countries also will be benefit. Countries like Vietnam, which are more ready to welcome many of the sectors, but India will be always one of the biggest beneficiary of this entire global supply chain rearrangement, or and India has a role to play, and and India can only match China's manufacturing scale. So and third is this ramification on politics and governance. Look, this is definitely going to trigger between there are the two aspects also which I can touch it. But one is the internal politics of the countries. If you look at that, there will be the rise of authoritarianism in the country, and this is happening, and state powers have the countries have been trying to assert, and they have been using the state power. So the rise of the government powers is going to be definitely there. But it is the biggest challenge which we are looking in terms of its impact on political ramifications is on between the clash between authoritarianism and Washington consensus, which is quite visible between the U.S. and China model, and this is going to be a big challenge for America to how to contain China on all fronts, and how to expose geopolitical intent, and how to expand its partners and allies, how to reach it. Which Biden administration is, I would say, more capable than Trump administration, given its multilateral approach. And with this, I will conclude. Again, thank you very much. Thank you, JIMS, for inviting me, and Dr. Ajitav, Dr. Tyagi, Mr. Nafis, and Chairman and Director, and all my panelists and all who have been listening to me. Thank you very much again.
Well, there's more to what meets the eye. I think that pretty much summarizes Dr. Sharma's address today, and his expert view on politics, geopolitical moves and counter moves, and the vaccine diplomacy, the emergence of the Quad. There are some key takeaways here. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharma. Thank you. So now we're going to move to our keynote speaker. So, well, I'm privileged to introduce our first keynote speaker, Mr. William Tucker, who's both the co-founder and president of Charity United, a charity dedicated to children's rights with emphasis to make the right to education a reality in all parts of the world. Prior to co-founding Charity United, he was the president of DNY Laboratories Incorporated, a cutting-edge technology research lab specializing hydro nanotechnology, engineering, stable water clusters, and other advanced environmental technologies. William is also an entrepreneur, having started several of his own companies. Today, however, he draws on all this experience to educate children in the slums. As you can find him giving classes most of the times and education workshops directly in slums, schools, universities, and some of the top boarding schools in the world. He develops and field tests all educational material for Charity United to ensure that they achieve their aims of real education. So I request Mr. Tucker to deliver the keynote speech. Over to you, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, sir, and namaskar. I'd like to acknowledge all the previous speakers, and I want to take up on a point of Dr. Ashok Sharma. He made a very, very valid point, regarding media, right? It can go Media can take you the right direction, or it can take you the wrong direction. You know, media is a double-edged sword, because media tends to play on the emotions of people and lose sight of facts, right? You know, in the world of academics, in the world of research, in the world of science, in the world of law, you know, we are concerned only with facts, right? And the moment you lose sight of facts, you know, you make wrong decisions. This goes for management students as well, right? You're running a company and you start to run based on an opinion, you know, you can run a company into the ground. Okay, so back to the point that Dr. Ashok Sharma made. You know, currently we have worldwide global media. You know, it's capable of vast influence, but it is also a business. You understand? Global media is there to make money. They're now private corporations. So this is something you have to keep in mind when listening to media, right? China has its own media arm. The Middle Eastern world has its own media arm. Europe has its own media arm. The United States has its own media arm. But these are, on the large part, private companies owned by private companies, and you know, they're there to sell newspapers, make money. The academic world, on the other hand, is there to advance research, to make discoveries, to find the facts, okay? And you know, I've worked as the vice president of a research lab. I've worked in management, and you know, my passion is education, right? And I've actually educated and brought education, and I do a lot of field work myself. Right now, I'm dressed nicely in a suit, right? You will frequently find me in a slum. I've been in some of the worst slums of the world, Latin America, Africa, and I tend to pick the places where nobody wants to go, okay? I look for the places where nobody wants to go. An example, in South Africa, I went to a slum called Etwatwa. Etwatwa is a Zulu word, okay? And, you know, it sounds interesting to people, but I will explain the meaning of Etwatwa, right? Etwatwa is the Zulu word for the sound of machine gun fire, okay? Twa, 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 right? So the name of the slum is Etwatwa. It is named after the sound of machine gun fire. And I will tell you, if you've ever been to Soweto, people think of Soweto as a slum. No, Soweto is a comfortable place. I know, I've been there, I've lectured students there. Etwatwa, the people of Soweto are afraid to go into Etwatwa, okay? So this is to give you a different view, right? Now, let's draw this back to the current health crisis we're facing, okay? So we have COVID-19. COVID stands in 19, stands for number 19. It's not 2019, it's a number system for a virus, right? Obviously, there's health concerns, and we have to take care of our health, the health of our family, and the health of society. But the urban approach and the undeveloped approach cannot be the same. And currently they are treated the same. During the last year, I was actually in slums almost every day, right? In slums, they do not have the funds for masks, right? They don't. The girls don't have funds available for sanitary pads. You understand? This is a reality. This is a very harsh reality. This is a fact. So, you know, we talk about the lockdown throughout the world. No, there was not a lockdown, you know, not in reality, not in reality, right? Most people in slums live in maybe 9 square meters for a family of 7, or maybe a family of 10, right? There is no social distancing. There's a communal bathroom, right? Food is handled by the hand, right? It's only a Western etiquette to use a knife and a fork. Now I just traveled myself. Up until 3 days ago, I was in India myself, you understand? Sorry, I did not use a knife and a fork for a year, right? Because that's the local custom. This is how it's done. And if you're in slums, they don't have knives and forks. And to survive in a slum, you need an immune system. A knife and a fork is not going to help you. So why bother, right? But these are some facts. So everybody's talking social distancing, and fine, masks, fine. These are all precautionary measures you can take if you are in an urban environment where the rest of the facilities you have make that make sense, right? But here's the other facts that are not looked at, or that I don't feel the media is paying any attention to, right? United Nations report just released shows estimates 239,000 deaths in just in Southeast Asia alone due to services being cut off because of the lockdown, okay? So we're talking about 239,000 deaths, not due to COVID, but due to the COVID lockdown, okay? So, and this again is not in the urban environment, this is in the undeveloped environment. And I know this because even as little as a month and a half ago, I was forced to step in medically with one of the teenage girls in the slum because she had developed an incredible leg infection. Doctors weren't available. I happen to have worked at a research lab, and I'm not a doctor, but I have my cell phone and I can call, probably 200 or 300 doctors on speed dial, just related to research work. Well, this girl would have died due to the lockdown if I wouldn't have been there. Why? I was able to get a doctor on the phone in the United States, describe the situation, and then go get the needed medicine that this girl needed, right? And we got it just in time, and she survived. So these are all facts, right? And the media has currently got us on an incredible scare of COVID. I'm not saying this is wrong, it's like I'm trying to be very clinical about this, but at some point, the media is not reporting on the ramifications of the lockdown. It is not reporting on the difference between an urban environment and a developing environment, where even if you give everybody masks in a developing environment, it's not going to do anything because everything is handled by hand, right? You don't have new, fresh gloves every day. They don't have the sanitary equipment. There's communal bathrooms. You're sleeping in a room with like 7 to 12 people, 5 people to a bed. And you have to go out and somehow earn a living on a day-to-day basis because there isn't reserves, right? That you can rely on. So I think developing countries need to take a very hard look at instructions from developed countries because they are two entirely different situations. And my fear is that the facts, that using the same solution for an entirely different situation will result in more damage than good, right? Because right now we have 230,000 child deaths due to COVID lockdown, not due to COVID, right? That's a high price to pay. And somebody needs to look at the statistics. And again, this is an academic study that needs to occur and somebody needs to look at. All right. Second, we are creating a COVID educational crisis. Okay, and this is very evident in the slums, because I've been in the slums for the last year extensively. Online learning works fine, again, in an urban developed area. Go to Bihar, go to Rajasthan, go to Africa, go to many places around the world, and online learning is not an option, right? And in an underdeveloped country, the school-going age tends to stop much earlier. So if you lose 2 years of education, you're creating a catastrophe for the current generation that's supposed to be finishing its education and then going into the job market, right? And I call this the COVID educational crisis. It's not seen yet. We will only see the effects of it a few years down the line. But it's being generated right now, okay? So to all the students that are here, use this online education, because it's a real privilege. Your university professors, JIMS, is doing everything it can to keep the highest quality education available to you. You've got speakers from around the world. They're doing an incredible job. Take this to heart. And once the COVID crisis is over, keep in mind that there are children in slums who've not had the privilege or opportunity you have right now. And you may want to look at passing forward some of the education you are able to get right now to help kids catch up in the slums the moment it is safe to do so. And this would be my humble request of all of you students who do have the privilege right now. Thank you so much for your time. I'm turning it over to the next speaker. Namaskar.
Thank you, Will. And I think that struck a chord somewhere deep down inside, because we live in this small world of ours and we tend to overlook what is happening around us. We definitely have the privilege, but it doesn't work that way. We have to look at the bigger picture. And thank you for your incredible work with the slums and the underprivileged and highlighting that here with us and our students. I assure you, our students also do a lot of social work. We have a blood donation camp, and we have students going out into the underprivileged, reach out to the underprivileged masses and take classes there and talk to them about various awareness things. And that's a very small droplet in the ocean, but then every drop counts, right?
Every drop counts. Thank you so much for your work, and I congratulate your students who are involved in this. And please contact me.
Yes.
If you would like to cooperate in the future.
Definitely, we can gain from your experience.
Myself available.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much. All right, so that was Mr. Tucker for you. And now we have our next keynote speaker, Mr. Harjot Singh. He specializes in international litigation and commercial arbitration. He's an international human rights lawyer who is a dual qualified international lawyer. He has 19 years of professional experience of corporate litigation before the Honorable Supreme Court, as well as the Honorable High Courts in India, and nearly 14 years of experience in courts in United Kingdom, and has worked with reputed law firms. Presently, he's working as director with Twinwood Law Practice Limited, a dynamic law firm based in the UK. Now, Society magazine referred to him as legal hawk at the age of 28 for one of the successful cases he defended. He's a practicing solicitor in the Supreme Court of England and Wales. He has qualified the Common Professional Examination from Birmingham, UK. He is also enrolled as practicing advocate by Bar Council of UP in February 2002. Now I invite Dr. Harjot to deliver the keynote address. Dr. Harjot, over to you.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Harjot. Thank you
for the lovely introduction. I'm not doctor. I'm Mr.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. Perfectly fine. And thanks to the organizing committee to start with for the lovely invitation. Special thanks to Dr. R.K. Raghuvanshi and Dr. Amit Gupta, Mr. Nafis Uddin. I would like to congratulate the organizing committee for a wonderful panel. Professor Adam, Dr. Ashok Sharma, Mr. William Tucker, all of them amazing views and amazing amazing inputs. Dear staff members and dear students, I've been asked to speak on the recent advancements and innovation in management, media science, technology, education, and legal issues. I'll confine to the legal issues because that's what my expertise is. And after hearing Dr. Ashok Sharma, Mr. William Tuckers, and Professor Adam, I don't want to go into the management, media, and education because they've covered it all so well. Uh, when I start the recent advancement and innovation, we all know the recent thing is COVID-19. What Mr. Tucker just said, and it is having an impact across the board. You see a developed country, you see a developing country, everybody is struggling. But what we have to discuss today, and what I'm going to discuss today, is what are going to be the international implications sooner or later. So let's start. Dr. Ashok Sharma spoke at length about the Chinese strategy with regard to the COVID-19, and I agree with him. But there's going to be a lot of international implication, and so they would be in as per the international law. A lot of the academic discussions and the legal cases are being prepared about the role of China in breaching international law. And this is yet to be ascertained. There's yet to be a case law because still everybody's struggling with this COVID-19. But WHO report and the other scientific reports are being discussed, and proceedings are being prepared and or issued in the US and UK courts about damages due to the alleged negligent attitude of the Chinese authorities in sharing the initial report about the start of COVID. So that will have a great impact in the coming years about the international law and the role of international law, whether they would be able, the international courts, for example, the US courts and the UK courts, they have got the jurisdiction because if, for example, hypothetically, a judgment is passed against the government, they can well enforce it in Australia, even in Canada, even in UK and US, because all the governments have got the sovereign funds. So we have to see how the future goes about, because there might be a big negligence case coming from an insurance company, because don't forget, they have to pay out to a lot of like marine insurance, business interruption insurances. They would go back to some authority, they would try to find out where this all started. And there's a lot of academic interest in starting this issue. So I agree with Dr. Sharma's view about the Chinese role and the Chinese strategy. But on the other side, there is a big discussion going on. What should be the international implication of the negligence? So that's the first thing. There are implications for insurance industry, business interruption insurance, what I just said. There is an implication for banking industry. So for example, they would be getting a lot of bad loans. And of course, there are examples where the banks would then, or consortium of banks would prefer to litigate against, because of the losses of COVID, they might have to go and sue a sovereign authority about the starting. So this will eventually evolve. And I would say, it would take about 2 to 3 years, but this will have a massive impact in the development of the international law. With regards to, I think Mr. William Tucker raised a very important point about the disparity in the support system. So my second discussion is about the support. So for example, UK, US, Canada, Australian model of support are there. Like for example, in UK, they gave the furlough, they paid all the employees, the business loans were there, that just 1% interest. And US has done so much, Australian governments, Canadian governments. So the developing countries and the developed country, there has been a disparity. And I think there would be a lot of discussion. So this is also advanced, this is also something which is a recent advancement. So there's a lot of discussion going on in many countries about the support, the financial support that need to be introduced in the developing countries with regards to education, with regards to the basic food, with regards to the migrant labor. And there have been amazing intervention by the countries, for example, US and UK, and that can set up a great example. Because, for example, in UK, they were paying universal credit to everybody who was not employed. There were no rent evictions. So the government really stepped up and didn't bother about fiscal deficit, which is very important. So because the developing countries should do the same, and they do not need to worry about the fiscal deficit, because no investment or support to the public at this time directly will be bad economics. And there are a lot of economics who are saying that, because it will adversely affect the basic economic principle of demand and supply. Because if there's no support to a large mass of public, slowly and slowly the demand side will slow down, and will at long term can result in inflation, recession. So a lot of the discussions are going on, and there are petitions, for example, pending in the Honorable Supreme Court of India, where where there have been issues about the support to the migrant labor by the government, and there would be issues about the second wave. The amount of support that is needed for the business, the amount of liquidity that is needed for the industry, the amount of money that is needed for the education. For example, Mr. Tucker was right. There have been people who are living in slums, and there is no social distancing, and then they have to struggle for food because of the sheer system of our economic system, because they have to go out to get the food. And so there's a disparity. And I think the judicial, on the legal side, intervention would come sooner or later, and it would shape up the economist principle of fiscal deficit with vis-a-vis a good economics or a bad economics. Moving from there, the third issue, patent vaccine diplomacy. Again, Dr. Sharma raised about the Indian role, which is great. India supplied the vaccines, but right now something else is emerging. So India and South Africa has moved to the WTO that the patent should be, so they should be the basically in basic layman term, any country should be allowed to make a generic production of the vaccines. And the great thing is the US, European Union are coming to an agreement about the same. And if this happens, the developed countries would say, okay, hang on, this is an international issue. This is a great issue where we all need to come together to support everybody, the charities, the lawyers, the doctors, academic people. Everybody needs to support everybody. And then you can take care of the neighbors. And if you do that, everybody can take care of each other. So I think this is important. If that happens, the implication, what would happen as per the Indian law? So it's very important. There's a provision in the Indian Patent Act where a compulsory license can be granted by the government. So when the government grants permission to any individual or organization to use, sell, or make a patented design or product, irrespective of the will of the patent owner, for public good, so the criteria is the public good, is referred to as a compulsory license. Compulsory license is usually seen being granted in the pharmaceutical products and the products which fulfill criteria as mentioned in Section 84 of the Patents Act. And so the first compulsory license in India was given to Natco Pharma Limited, and it was a great intervention by the government of India at the time. And hopefully, again with the implications of COVID and the recent advancement because of the Indian efforts and the South African effort, if this happens by WTO with the help of US, UK, and the European governments, it will be a landmark for all of us. Fourth issue, what I want to discuss today is the evolving interpretation of the Constitution of India. Now, this is something domestic that I want to discuss. All of us are reading horrific stories. You watch media, horrific news. Mr. Tuckers is right. Media has corporate issues. They're being governed by corporate principles. But I would say recently the Indian media had been playing a very proactive role. Wherever there's a problem in the supply of oxygen, they report it. Wherever there's a problem of beds, no support to the patients, they would report it. And I think we have to take it positively, because we as a country have to evolve and fight the second wave together. The government is trying to do everything. And to be really fair and honest, it's not a political statement, but all the governments across the world have struggled and will struggle if the COVID numbers increase, because it's directly proportional to the need of oxygen, directly proportional to the need of beds, and everything is dependent on the number of COVID patients, which would increase. But I'm very impressed, and that's what I want to discuss with you, with the intervention of the number of high courts and the Supreme Court. And that is where we as India, we have a very special constitution. And I want to discuss that with you because as all of you as students of engineering, media, education, law, all of you are public spirited people, you're educated people. And if you feel, something like this happening, you can and you should make a petition to the Supreme Court or the High Court as a PIL, public interest litigation, and you should ask them, the request the court to direct the government or the executive to operate in a certain way, because all these interventions the honorable Supreme Court is able to do is because of the Article 21, which is a right to life to all of you, all of the citizens, or anybody who's in India, and right to life vis-a-vis hospital care, right to life, which would include right to health, right to free treatment, free and private affordable treatment, dignity to the dead, testing, lack of testing. All these issues are very complicated and complex, and they're being right now being taken up by various high courts and the Supreme Court. But how does it all start? So what is the impact on right to life due to COVID and its implication on individual health, protection by state and right of health, whether the social security is part of it, helping poor, right to food, what Mr. William Tucker said, right to education, and what is the role of the PIL? So I would say it's an opportunity for you to act as custodian for the poor, to help the poor. And how does so if I just step back and take you to a comparative study, so European Court of Human Rights are two very classic judgments, and if I just take you to those judgments, so in two very exceptional circumstances, the European Court has accepted that the responsibility of the state under the substantive limb of Article 2 was engaged as regard to the acts and omission of healthcare providers. Firstly, where an individual patient's life was knowingly put in danger by denial of access to life-saving emergency treatment. And this is a case called Mehmet versus Turkey. Now, this is a classic example. Denial of the right, denial to provide life-saving treatment. So if you see a denial of oxygen being given to the patient, denial of hospital beds, that is why the high courts and the Supreme Courts are intervening. And rightly said so. Like the other day, UP High Court said, if you don't provide oxygen, somebody dies, it's a genocide. The Supreme Court said you have to provide oxygen by this level. So it's I hear sometimes criticism, it's a judicial overreach, or it is not an overreach. It is judicial activism which is trying to protect everybody, and trying to ensure that all of yours right to life is being protected. Another case, again, the European Court. So this is a view across the globe. So where a systematic or structural dysfunction in hospital service resulted in patient being deprived of access to life-saving emergency treatment, where the authorities knew about or ought to have known about that risk and failed to take the necessary measures to protect that risk from materializing, thus putting the patient's life, including the life of the particular patient concerned, in danger. It's a breach of Article 2. And this is again a case A versus Turkey. So these are the two cases, where the European Court intervened, the historic cases, but again, comparatively, Article 21. So what is Article 21? All of you, I know the law students would know about it, but all of you should know about it. So Article 21 of the Constitution is a fundamental right to start with. It guarantees protection of life and personal liberty to every citizen. The Supreme Court has held that right to life with human dignity enshrined in Article 21 derives from the directive principle of the state policy, and it includes protection of health. So very important cases are Bandhua Mukti Morcha versus Union of India, the state of Punjab versus Mohinder Singh Chawla, 1997. So we have a historic cases where the Honorable Supreme Court has intervened. The very important case, failure of a government hospital to provide a patient timely medical treatment resulted in violation of patient's right to life. Paschim Banga Khet Majdoor Samiti versus State of West Bengal, AIR 1996. 1996, the Honorable Supreme Court said this. So imagine right now, the role of Honorable Supreme Court, the high courts are so paramount to protect all of your lives, everybody's life, and to step up for support of oxygen, for support of beds. And this is something which is a recent advancement. And I wanted to discuss with all of you because you can see how the courts are intervening. And if ever you see that any of the rights are being breached, for example, the hospitals are sending SOS and making petitions before the High Court, Delhi High Court, and requesting for oxygen, and they're getting oxygen. So imagine the impact of Article 21 in fighting the COVID-19. And so I would summarize my discussion today with the fact that all the judiciary is playing a very important role in safeguarding the constitution and all the citizens, and you all are part of this judicial system, an institution. You're a lawyer or you're not a lawyer, you're academic, but step up wherever you see rights are being infringed, wherever you see somebody needs support, you should. And it's a constitutional duty. You should file a petition in the High Court or the Supreme Court, or make a cluster, or your institute, JIMS, can take part in a social initiative with Mr. Nafisuddin, or the organizing committees, where you can go to the High Court, go to the Supreme Court, and fight so that every citizen of a country gets the basic access of oxygen, the basic access of hospitals, beds, and the treatment by the doctors. So I would end this again by congratulating the organizing committee for the wonderful invitation and for making me part of this wonderful panel. Thank you very much, Mr. Uddin.
Well. That was so much information packed in such smart. It takes time to process, and I'm not from legal background. I'm from physics background, and thank you for explaining it so lucidly that even I could understand every bit of it. And I'm sure our law students and our law department is going to benefit immensely from this, especially the patent point, where the patent should be available. It should be waived off for manufacturing for the global good, and as well as the Article 21. I mean, we just take it for granted and we don't even think about it. But then it is a right, as you said correctly. So thank you, Mr. Harjot. And I don't think I made a mistake by calling you a doctor earlier, because
No, it's okay.
the no, but the kind of expertise you have. I could call you that. Thank you.
I'm so grateful.
Thank you, Mr. Harjot.
Thank you again. Thank you again for the invitation. And this is very close to my heart. I'm sitting here in UK, but my heart goes out to all my brothers and sisters in India. And when you see a news, and we want to help, so we have tried to set up a social group in India where we are helping them to initiate petitions, liaise with the government. So you have to support the government, negotiate with them, get everybody the oxygen, because it's sad, when you
absolutely tragic.
The news report. And I don't blame the news people, because it's the right, what the Supreme Court recently said, it is the right of the media to give an unfettered reporting. They shouldn't be stopped. And again, people like Mr. Tucker, like the way they are working in the education, in the slums, we need that intervention right now. And what Dr. Sharma said, about the role of Chinese, I would say, there would be a time, probably maybe after 2 years or 1 year, I don't know, but there would be some sort of litigation against the Chinese government, and because of what is the impact of negligence. So
negligence
it's yet to be explored. But thank you again. Thank you,
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think now I would like to invite our co-convener, the dynamic Dr. Sumit Agarwal, HOD Commerce Department, to just address the gathering. Dr. Agarwal.
Yeah. Good afternoon, all, and good afternoon, Nafis. So, respected chairman, sir, director, sir, esteemed guests, HODs, faculty members, participants from the corporates, academics, and dear students, I am extremely grateful to all of you to be the part of this conference, the Cramstal 2021. My special thanks to our guest of inaugural ceremony, Professor Adam, Dr. Ashok Sharma, Mr. William Trucker, and Mr. Harjot Singh for sparing their valuable time and enlighten the participants with their words of wisdom. The objective of the conference is to bring together experts from the academics, researchers, and industries on a single platform to share their learning and wisdom on the recent changes and advancement in various areas of study. I am sure that participants through research will enlighten everyone with innovative thoughts and ideas for the recent changes and advancement in the world. So that's all from my side, and thank you very much, and have a nice day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you all the guests and the speakers, the keynote speakers, Mr. Harjot, Dr. Ashok Sharma, Professor Adam, and William Tucker. And I think with this, we are concluding our inaugural session.
Nafis sir, can
Yes,
we
ma'am.
ask the
Yes, absolutely.
panel to turn on the camera and we can
Yes,
have a group picture?
yes. So if the panel could please turn on the camera and we can have a group picture.
Shishma ma'am, do we have a clear picture?
Just give me a second, ma'am. Tucker sir is not there. Mr. Tucker. And Adam sir, I think he's also not here.
No,
Okay.
sir is there. I can see Adam, sir. Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. So the option for breakout rooms should be available to all the participants now. You're requested to please join the session you are participating in. We have a break of 20 minutes before the technical session starts. And with this, thanks to all the panelists, and I wish to sign off. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to all of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you so much.
All the participants who are there in the meeting, we are creating the breakout rooms in a moment. Just give us time. The technical team is on it, and you can join accordingly to your paper presentation. We have already shared the schedule, and you can check the sequence in the Google Sheet for any update.
Right. Thank you all.